what I'm trying to do with Grapevine Workplace is to give this one shared system where everybody can stay connected and aligned and have the work, the information, and the people in one place.
My guest today is Zachary Wright, founder of Grapevine Workplace. Where do you see digital workplace platforms heading over, say, the next few years?
From my experience and a lot of research, remote, hybrid, distributed teams, I think that is going to be every single organization moving forward. The new way of working and realizing that the tools that we have out there now, we can finally bring this all together without it being like $100,000. I say this and I hope nobody takes it wrong, but we try to build for the laziest user, because in many cases, you want to focus on your job. You don't want to focus on the tool.
Welcome back to the Advisor AI Solutions podcast, where we sit down with builders, operators, and tech leaders shaping the future of how work actually gets done. Today's episode is a great one, especially if you've ever felt like the person holding everything together inside your company is yourself. So my guest today is Zachary Wright, founder of Grapevine Workplace. He is currently building what he calls a digital workplace operating system designed for the people who live in the middle of the organization and the ones coordinating across teams, tools, and timelines while still trying to do their own actual jobs. So if you've ever said, everything runs through me as an owner, this episode's definitely for you. Zach, welcome to the show, man. Great to have you.
Thanks for having me, Jordan. I'm excited to be here.
Wicked. So, Zach, before we dive into the tech and the system side of things, just want to start with you. So you've got a background that kind of spans through construction, from roofing, operations, sales, enablement, as well as strategies. You've also been on job sites, inside factories, and in leadership meetings. So, yeah, let me start here. So for people meeting you for the first time, Zach, what's the short version of your path? And what experiences shaped how you think about work and coordination today?
Yeah, so like you said, I mean, whenever I was growing up, my dad did home improvements, and so he's been doing home improvements for longer than I've been alive. I'm 35, and so I played baseball and sports, and it was hard to get like a steady job. So anytime that I needed money, I would go with him to the job and get paid, right? And so that's kind of how my career started. And then whenever I was in college, I played baseball. And I say that because I went 4.5 years, and then I dropped out, went back, dropped out, went back. In the in-between times of dropping out, I worked at a mobile home factory. So we were putting everything together. That's where I was doing roofing. So me and a crew of 7 would do 8 to 10 houses every day. So we're talking about single wides, double wides, and triple wides. I didn't even know triple wides was a thing. And from there, I went back to school, dropped out, and then started working in the operating room as an operating room assistant, which sounds sexy, but it's really just a glorified janitor cleaning up after the surgeries and transporting patients. I finally graduated, and then I got into IT staffing, which got me into this idea of understanding tech. You know, not really from like doing the tech, but understanding that this could be a pretty lucrative career change. And so from that position, I ended up going more into the operational route. And fast forward, like I worked at some startups, I worked at publicly traded companies, and my role from then to now has always been in strategy and operations. But I've never looked at work just as knowledge work or desk jobs. It's always been this whole 360-degree view. And so whenever it comes to coordination, I kind of have this unique perspective versus someone who's only worked knowledge worker positions, or someone who has only worked blue collar positions. So I hope that in what I build in Grapevine Workplace, that comes to the forefront. But that's a little bit about me. Strategy and operations is what I live and breathe.
Oh, that's awesome. And, you having the the full 360 spectrum of sight on different scenarios definitely has to become valuable when you are creating such a platform. So Zach, what exactly did you notice early on that really felt broken, but completely normalized, that you said that figured like, all right, there's a solution here to be had?
Yeah, so there's a before and after. So a lot of people talk about before the pandemic, after the pandemic. If I think about whenever I got into that IT staffing firm, I it was me going to the office 9 to 5, 5 days a week, and it was a $1 billion company, but I didn't know all those people. I mean, to me, that workplace was the 19 people that I was helping manage, right? And so if anything needed to happen or take place, we would just call a meeting. We might just announce it. Um, Maybe there was an email that was sent out, but I mean, typically we were all in the office. We could just have those meetings. Then you fast forward to the pandemic, and I started working 100% remote, like many of us. And the the rise of SaaS applications or software as a service, basically the fancy word for subscriptions, started to take place. And so there were there's good in that because you can get pinpoint solutions, meaning like you can get this one thing to solve this one problem to work with this one team. But there's also a challenge that happens there, which is that team becomes siloed, not just the people, but the processes, the workflows, the systems, the information. And so if you do this to a company that has maybe multiple departments, now people are working in silos and they're working with half information. So that was one of the things that I saw. And then for me, this is true for remote and distributed teams or hybrid teams, but then also for deskless workers or frontline workers. It's that the office is gone, and that the centralized location where people would go, like I was mentioning in office, the 19 people that I worked with, like that context that lived in their brains, that I could just go and say, hey, Jordan, what was that process? Or how do we do this process again? Or how do we find this information? Or what do I do here? Like that goes away. And so whenever we go to these places that are more digital, or you don't have that one place that you go to, even time zones, now like seeking that information through somebody else actually becomes a distraction, right? And so we see the big shift from being in office versus to being distributed or just not working in a location, which has already always been true probably for construction, right? Because you're on different sites. You might be in a construction company that has different people working in different places. So this has always been true. So the problem that I found was that whenever you have all these different tools, you have these silos, you have this gap of information, and everybody is kind of operating on half information. And so what I'm trying to do with Grapevine Workplace is to give this one shared system where everybody can stay connected and aligned, and have the work, the information, and the people in one place, where it used to be the office. Now I think of it, my hypothesis is that it's going to be in this digital workplace operating system. So that's the problem that I saw, is the scatteredness, the new way of working, and realizing that, okay, the tools that we have out there now, we can finally bring this all together without it being like $100,000, you know?
Right. No, that's amazing to be able to bring such a platform, away not just for enterprise level companies, but for the small and medium sized businesses, right? And then having to create that communication that's lacking in between the different departments, individuals, and then removing the inefficiencies, as well as having to actually talk to someone, and the distractions you mentioned. That's absolutely game changing for many companies.
Yeah, I think even now, like we were talking about this a little bit before, but some of the people that we were working with, they were doing like pen and paper, they were doing text message, and that's a problem because you're, well, one, you're blending work and life. Like you want to have them separate. especially like if you need to sign off and disconnect, like you don't want to blend work and life too much. And then the other aspect of it is it's not just communication, but being able to track the projects, being able to create notes, and have it so interconnected that you don't really need anything else. In these types of industries, right? Like you're still going to have your business aspect of it, so your like financial systems, or maybe like your CRM system, customer relationship management tools. But whenever it comes to actually managing the project and task, communicating with your coworkers, and being able to just stay aligned on what is going on as a leader, that's where we kind of come into play.
Right. Okay. Now, Zach, you'd mentioned that you guys recently brought on a construction company, and like you kind of touched on it as well, is that they were still on pen and paper pad, right? So, for you, who would be the ideal kind of candidates to implement a platform like Grapevine?
Yeah, so we talk directly to what we call the glue holders or the cross-functional leaders. And I can give you a real example. So the construction company that you're talking about, they do a lot of work with Food Lion or Del Hayes, if people are familiar with that grocery store chain. The person that came to me, they were the kind of go-to person, the connector of the dots in the organization. So this person is basically, let's say, like a project manager, and they have the owner of the company. It's only them two, right? And then some subcontractors that come in. But this person will get a call from the owner saying that Food Lion has a new job. They do the ceilings on like remodeling or renovations, or new stores. So they do the ceiling and the soffit. And so the owner will say, "Hey, such and such, we have a new project." And so now that the glue holder will go and call the general contractor or the property owner of that Food Lion location. Sometimes they do like subsidies of Food Lion too, so they're in like a strip mall, and maybe that's why they're the product or the property owner. And so they'll take in that information like you would, like gathering information, project requirements, deliverables. They'll understand all the details. They'll put that in, like the way that they use it in Grapevine is instead of like pen and pad that could get lost, or you have to like find it whenever you leave the job and you can't find it anymore. They put it into a note, which is, we call our documents notes inside of Grapevine. And all this is mobile friendly. So you can do it straight from your iPhone or your Android. And they'll take the note, they'll put it in plain language. So you don't have to worry about formatting or anything like that. Once they get that information, they'll turn it into a contract, and you can do all this in Grapevine. So you turn it into a contract. On the contract tab, you put in the information for the general contractor or the property owner in this case, the email, the address, and then you'll give it the invoice materials. So this is the material that we need, this is what it's going to cost, this is labor, this is what it's going to cost. Then they just send that to their email, and you can also sign it in there too. So you send it to them, they get it in their email, they open it up in their either phone or their browser, they sign it, you get the update that it's been signed, and you can tag anybody that you need to on that email, so they'll get updated in the system and in email. And so from there, that's when they take that note, and we have project management tools in there. So you have your project manager, or we call it task. You go in there. We do have AI, so you take the note in plain language, and you go to the AI project generator, and you just say generate this project from this note. And so even if you're not familiar with like technology too much, you can use this like very, very simple. And that will generate the project details. And now it's on either a Kanban board, or we have different views. So it could just be in a simple table form. And then as he's knocking off the checklist of, okay, we've talked to the property owner or the general contractor, mark it off. We've sent out the materials and we've got them back, mark it off. now we've started the project, and then you mark off each thing that's in the project. And so basically your typical project management. And then we also have chat in our platform too. So um, well, even before I go there, in the project tools you have workflows, and so if you move it from A to B to C, you can have notifications. So if you're a leader and you just want to know where your project stands, anytime that it moves from this to this, you can get a notification. You can set that up. um, and so, and you can hand off too. So if it goes from this person to this person, you just set that up. And we're here to help people get that set up. The last thing that I was going to say is that we also have chat in here. And so as maybe they have a question, they can send a message through chat. Or if you put your phone number in the profile and you're using your phone, I can just call you and say like, hey, I got a quick question on this project, right? Now it's going to go straight to your phone. It's not going to be like in the system, but it doesn't really matter because it's in the system. You're calling there. So this person was like I said, pen and paper. They were text messaging. So each time that the owner of the company needed to send the information over to the project manager or the glue holder in this case, it would take sometimes days just to scroll through those, remember whose number was what. And so now they have a fully fledged system. And it like we just got a review back from the owner saying like he's super excited. Like he's been trying to get his business organized for probably like 20 years. And with Grapevine, he's been able to do that. So as a founder, like that is just something that you want to hear. You want to make sure that your product isn't just a product. It's actually helping someone be better and do better in their role.
Right. No, that's a great feeling when you finally get proof of concept right after so long, through blood, sweat, and tears, to get that affirmation. So that's dope, man. Good for you guys. But it sounds like you guys have built something that's very comprehensive, very obviously very practical. And that, of course, naturally, one of my questions was going to be if you guys did integrate AI into the tool, and it sounds like, is it to be able to just create a project and snap your fingers, using AI. That's absolutely tremendous, right?
And just to add to that, like we think about like I say this and I hope nobody takes it wrong, but we try to build for the laziest user, right? Because in many cases, like you want to focus on your job. You don't want to focus on the tool, right? And so what we've done is we've tried to make everything in the system, one, mobile friendly, so you don't have to carry around your laptop if you don't want to. Two, we make AI practical. A lot of people, there's so much hype around AI, but like nobody really knows how to apply it in certain situations. And so we just take that out of the equation and say like, hey, you want to do this? We have AI for it. Put this here, click that button, and there it is. So that's what we're trying to do is build for the laziest user. So AI actually gets adopted and it's not trying to replace you. It's trying to make your life so much simpler.
Right. No, no, for sure. So you guys have clients in the construction field. What other practices have you guys kind of led into as well?
So this is we're in a heavy pivot right now. So for 2 years we were building a product and we got up to 10 customers. 9 out of 10 were freemium, so it wasn't like lucrative by any means. And so I say that to say like right now we're in the taking on design partners phase. And so we do have one in construction. We have a few people that are, or a few companies that are in the marketing and creative design elements. So you think about people or companies that operate where they have projects that they need to track. They have clients that they're working with. Even in some cases, it could be solo founders too, right? Like this person just wants to be able to have a better organized business, and that's really what we're doing here. But yeah, I would say construction is a avenue that we're exploring. Like I mentioned the whole story before. Um, the marketing and creative design agencies, and then even some fractional like COOs or operations leaders, the people who are kind of putting the nuts and bolts behind what you see on the forefront. Those are kind of the ones that we're focusing on, but we're still early in that pivot where we're doing a lot of hypotheses and experimentation to see which avenue makes the most sense for us. But it does seem to be kind of like the frontline workers, the deskless workers, or even manufacturing, where it's like you have a front office and then you have the line workers, right? Where maybe you need to communicate something to the line workers, or maybe those line workers or frontline workers have this training that they need to be able to take. Maybe they're onboarding, or maybe there's just a way that they needed to do something. I remember whenever I worked in the factory, like you had to follow OSHA's rules, right? And so, I mean, some of us didn't, but but like at least you could point back to it and say, okay, this is what we're supposed to do, versus going off of memory, which is what we had to do in the factory because we didn't have anything on mobile. You didn't have any emails or laptops there because you're working with tools. You're not working with information, right? So I know that's a long answer, but it's still up in the air. But that's kind of where we're leaning towards. It seems that those types of industries really like what we're doing.
No, that's great, and don't worry about the long answer, because you have a tool that is just so multi-purposed, right? Um, and to be able to identify who specifically, I imagine would be very tough, but to be able to cast a wide net is tremendous as well.
Yeah, we still want to narrow it down. Like we want to build this tool specific for a specific industry or a specific theme, right? And what I mean by that is like I mentioned with the Food Lion example, is this person had a new client, they had a project intake, they took notes, sent out a contract, turned that into a project, they managed the project, and then everything was updated as it went on. So that kind of flow, if that resonates, then we want to like hunker down on that and really make it a specific tool for that industry or that theme, versus like, here's our tool, you can do anything with it, boom boom boom. We made that mistake.
No, for sure, right? It's not necessarily about features, and more so about outcomes a lot of the time, right? Um, okay, Zach. So you guys are still in the launch phase. You guys are growing. Um, what as a software company, what kind of challenges are you guys facing? What's your biggest bottleneck right now?
Yeah, I mean, for us, we're I mean, since we are early in the pivot, it's kind of tough to talk about bottlenecks because I think every experimentation comes with a lesson learned into the next step forward. And I'm coming at this from 2 years of a failed approach, right? And so this time, what I'm doing is I'm being or trying to be super focused on who it is that we're serving, trying to figure that out, and then making sure that whenever we build the product, like anything that's additional, like for example, whenever I say design partners, it really means early access or early adopters. And the Food Lion example, we didn't have contracts in our platform, and they came to us and they said, hey, like I like this whole thing, but is there a way that you can do contracts? And I thought about it and I was like, okay, if we're also going to serve solo founders and maybe even people in these other industries, then a contract makes sense. Like we don't do invoicing or anything like that, but you can create the contract, you can have it signed, and then it's there. So that's the type of stuff that we're trying to do is speak to the people that we think are going to be best suited for our platform, and then not just work with them, but really hone in on the problems and challenges that they have, and then decide like, okay, does this match with our product vision? And if it does, then we can factor that in. And if it doesn't, then we can say, okay, no, but there is this other tool that you could use. So I would say the challenge is right now as we speak is fully grasping that one industry or that one theme that we can go all in on. And then from there, that's where we can say, okay, we're the digital workplace operating system, or less words, we can just say we're the work management system for construction, or we're the work management system for healthcare workers. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like we'll find that through the conversations that we have. And we tend, so far, we tend to go into like construction and then that marketing and design agencies so far.
Right. No, that's awesome, man. I love how you guys are so process driven into honing in on where exactly you guys and what space you guys should be.
And I mean, and if it sounds like we're still like up in the air, it's because we did build it for tech. Like we built it for B2B SaaS companies. But whenever, and this is just like a lesson out there, like the tech market is so saturated with the tools that everybody knows, and so it's very difficult to go into that market and say, hey, we're this new, hopefully we're not just shiny, but we're this new thing that could really solve these challenges in this industry, tech, and blah blah blah, right? Because like I've tried that several times and we'll get pushback like, we already use Slack, we already use Notion, we already use Asana, we already, like, you fill in the blank. So now we're thinking like, okay, these industries that are maybe not as tech forward, but they actually could really benefit from it, we can go into those markets and become those well-known become that well-known platform where you think Grapevine Workplace, you think X, right? Or you think Y. So yeah, just a lesson out there, like, tech is hard. Not building it is becoming easier, but actually replacing tools that people are inundated with or they think is the best, like, it's going to be very difficult to get them to replace with your solution.
100%. That's one of the most difficult things is replacing something that's already been trained to rely on, right? And then to come in to integrate a new system or style of thinking is always one of the biggest challenges in any workplace. Okay. Well, Zach, you kind of mentioned, I love it. I love the vision you have for Grapevine. But as an industry altogether, where do you see digital workplace platforms heading over, say, the next few years? Especially for industries like construction or design, like you mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like, from my experience and a lot of research, remote, hybrid, distributed teams, I think that is going to be every single organization moving forward. And it's not just about different locations, it's also about different time zones. It's about being able to operate on one consistency when nobody's in the same place anymore. And so I think that we're actually going to see a rise of digital workplaces. I don't know if that's what they're going to be called. But I look at digital workplace as the evolution of a workplace or a work management system, where a work management system is about managing projects and tasks and some type of work, right? Where a digital workplace is not just about managing the work, which includes the project management, the tasks, the notes, the meetings, all that, but also managing the information and the people all in one system. I mean, I think a lot of people out there, if they keep up with tech, if they keep up with AI, there's this kind of doomsday mindset that we're not going to need software anymore. I disagree. I can see why they say that, but and what they mean, just for people listening, is whenever they say that we don't need software anymore is because these agents are going to do the work for us, right? AI agents. But to me, as an operations person, AI agents or AI in general really are just uh, a rebrand of workflows and automations. You know, like, I understand that, yes, they're powerful. They can do semantic work, meaning that before I could search or I could trigger, like, when this goes into like from stage 1 to stage 2, then this triggers a workflow, and then it like pops to you with a notification, so you go and finish it. With an agent, there's a little bit of a difference that, okay, this stage 1 triggers to, or stage 1 moving to stage 2 triggers the AI agent workflow to do this, but then it can read, or like the semantic aspect of it is it can actually read, or it can visualize, or it can like cut through the image and say, okay, from stage 1 to stage 2, whenever it gets here, the agent needs to do ABC and then go to you for a review. Like, that's, to me, I don't think that software is going away too quickly. I think if you're in a tech bubble like I was, then you can think that. And so to me, I actually think the digital workplace, to go back to the original question, I think that the digital workplace, if done correctly, could be the single UI that people use to work. So you think about like a Microsoft where they have like Microsoft Word, PowerPoint, uh, Excel, all that kind of stuff. Like, that's technically a digital workplace in a sense. And then you add SharePoint to it and MS Teams, but they're all like disconnected, right? Like, they're connected, but they're disconnected, if that makes sense. Where ours is all interconnected. It's not like you have to do this or get this or get this or go over here or go over here. It's like all in one place. But then let's take that a step further, because that's where we are now. Take it a step further where you add these AI agents or these AI features or ingesting data. And then in a perfect world, I don't know if we'll actually be able to do this, is Grapevine Workplace becomes the single UI user interface where if you go to this job and you sign in, it's Grapevine and you're going to work there. If you go to this workplace and you sign in, it's going to be Grapevine and you work there. So you know everything there. It's more consistent, but what gets fed into it is different, maybe for different industries and different workplaces.
No, that's huge. That being a big differentiator in this space, right? Is to have that one single unison working together that, like you mentioned, that everyone's familiar with, right, and comfortable with, and any communication threads are all obvious.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. Like, whenever it comes to like this being the single UI, all the information is in one place. So instead of having to use some AI in this tool over here that only has access to this, or maybe even a few integrations, and then this one over here, then you have to piece them together yourself or like through an automation that most people don't know how to set up. You can just have it all feeding into one system. Plus, whenever we talk about like cost switching or replacements, right? You replace the tool on the back end, it doesn't really matter. You can do best in breed, but then everything lives in, like you said, the same UI, the same way that people work, and it just becomes easier. Like, I think about this, like I liken it to Microsoft Windows, right? It's an actual operating system that you can add certain things to it, you can take it away, or you could just use it by itself, right? And so that's what, in a perfect world, if I think about like the evolution of digital workplaces or where I want Grapevine to go, that's where I want us to go.
Right. No, like just talking to you right now and talking to some past guests and clients, I think one of the scenarios where this could actually be useful is in succession planning as well, right? And talking to one of my clients, he's looking to retire. His son's going to be taking over, and right now, all of decision making lives in his brain, right? So, as he moves on, how do you continue that, decision making process similar to how dad did it, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I will say this, because um this is a big thing, that if you don't do it, it doesn't matter which system you use or not, it's not going to work. Because I always say like garbage in, garbage out, and it amplifies with garbage in AI. You get bigger garbage and faster garbage out with AI. And so I mentioned that to say, like, in that succession planning example, what they would need to do if they use Grapevine, we have a knowledge base area, we have a place for files, we have a place for hubs, like team hubs, and you would need to make sure that that's updated. We have a way to verify that in our system, and so you would need to make sure that that is constantly updated. There's probably like a way that we'll add where if this knowledge base is updated now, send me a reminder in 6 months along with the collaborators of the knowledge base, and that way if somebody moves or leaves the company, it's still getting that reminder to get updated. But yeah, you the system is great. it's the catalyst for business continuity that you're talking about. And so like whenever that son takes over the business, he can either, because this is what happens, right? He can either rely on his father and continue to call him, ask questions, and like not feel confident as a leader taking over and still feel like it's his father's company. Or he could have a platform like this and all the information's in there, and he can even use AI, because we have semantic elastic and keyword search in our system. So if this person searched, like, you don't even have to know where anything is, you search like, tell me our paid time off policy, or whatever it is that they needed to, or our project intake process or policy. And then what's going to happen is, the way that search in our system works, it pops up like from 100% match to 90% to 80% to 60%. You can select those specific ones that make sense for what you're looking for, click analyze this, and instead of having to go through like 60 pages of documents, you just analyze those 6 documents, and then it spits out the summary. And then if, let's say that like you want to turn it into a meeting, or you want to turn that into a project, you just either add it to an existing meeting or project, or you create a new one. And so like that is like, when people use AI, it has to be helping them. You can't just ingest it, right? Like, you can't say like, here's AI, make it work for you. Like, we try to think about the different use cases from my own experience, from the people that I'm speaking with, and then how do we apply that to make it the most valuable and beneficial for the people who actually use Grapevine moving forward, which it sounds like that person would really, as long as the data is right, as long as the information is there, they could really value or benefit from that.
No, I definitely think so, man. That's absolutely dope how you'd be able to use that in that fashion, right?
Yeah,
But then also the um, the use of AI to actually make that come to life as well.
yeah, yeah. And
Okay, so sorry, go
I
ahead.
was just gonna say, yeah, I mean, like, we try to think about the different situations and scenarios, not just from a tool perspective, but how people actually behave and act whenever you're not the leader, or like you're new into the organization, right? Like, if I'm new into the organization and I'm out there on the job site, I don't I don't necessarily know what I'm looking for, but I know that I have this question. It's like going to Google, right? Or ChatGPT now. And so like, if you don't know what it is and you're just going to Google, you're going to get a random answer. If you go to ChatGPT, you're going to get like more of a targeted one based off of your previous searches in ChatGPT. In our system, it's based off of the information in the company, as well as your information that you personally have in the system. So it's more targeted to your company and your employees versus using something else out there.
Right, having that program knowledge base and being specific to your own company is huge, right? Okay, yeah. Okay, Zach. So as we wind down here, just one last question. So, for leaders listening who feel like everything runs through them, what's one piece of advice that you'd leave them with?
Yeah. So I always go to this like, this is the first approach, whether I'm doing like consulting or trying to get somebody into our system for the first time, is take a look and audit what you're doing on a daily basis. If you're the person that is the glue holder, that they're like connecting the dots and piecing together everybody else's work, or updating everybody on other things that are happening, like, do an audit. And in that audit, like, go extensive. Say, okay, every single week, let's just take a week, not a day, like every single week, this is what I'm doing, or even a month, right? Like, try to list as many things possible. And like, I'm talking about like, okay, these are the projects that I have going on, these are the meetings that I'm having, these are the meetings that are with clients, these are the meetings that are with internal, these are the recurring meetings, these are the team meetings. And then you can also look at your calendar and say, okay, like, maybe you need time. See, this is tricky though, because like I think about knowledge workers, and they can use like time blocks for like deep work focus, right? But like if you're on the construction site, like if you try to do deep work, like people are just going to think you're lazy and you're not working. But the point is to audit what it is that you're doing, and then define what you want to improve, or like what in the best case, like I was saying with the digital workplace, like we would be the single UI for everybody. So like think about what your desired state is, and in some cases that's better operations, that's a promotion at the end of the year, that's just like becoming better at your specific job, right? um and so do that audit. And then once you realize, because like I think about this, like if you have let's say that you have projects and you're doing like a daily stand up, like look at that daily stand up over the week and ask yourself, do we actually need this, or could this be asynchronous? And asynchronous is like, okay, I'm going to wake up, or at the end of the day, I'm going to send this message to my manager and say, hey, this is where we stand on this. Now, if you use Grapevine, you should be able to see what is happening anyway. But you could just say like, hey, here's my update for the day. This is what I was able to get done. And then now that 15-minute meeting times 5 goes away, or you have it on Mondays, or you have it on Fridays, or you have it on Wednesdays. Like it depends on where you want. But I would say audit that. And then like also as a glue holder, you can think about delegation, right? So if you have people that report directly to you, and you know that this specific person or these specific set of people wants to grow in the company, use that as leverage, right? And say like, hey, Jordan, I know that you mentioned that you were wanting to become a project manager at this construction company. This is how I did it, and I have a few things that if you're open to it, I can kind of work with you on it, or you can take it over. Right now, you don't want to be the person that just like delegates everything and I'm king and listen to me and follow my, like, but you want to like think about what is happening. And then I'll just say this last part, but like whenever it comes to like glue holders, if you are the system, right? And what I mean by that is you have to ping Jordan, or you have to call Jordan, or you have to like push people to do this. And like you have to be the reminder, and people come to you all the time like, where is this, what is that, how do we do that? Then you probably need a system. And that's probably the best time to adopt us too, because you know the system. So let's let us take it out of your brain and ingest it into Grapevine and show you how you can use that. And then the system becomes sustainable and you don't burn out. So that was a long answer again, but I would say that's a place to start is audit, delegate, and then actually have a system that's sustainable.
No, those are three very powerful points, right? Especially on the audit side, right? To be able to assess what actually moves the needle, what tasks are actually move the needle, what is priority, and then be able to calculate exactly what is a time suck. Those repetitive, monotonous jobs that could be pushed aside and even delegated, like you mentioned as well.
Yeah, and just one plug here is we have an insights page in Grapevine, and so we have the personal insights, so you can actually see like your internal meetings versus your external meetings, how long your meetings are. You can see employee engagement, like pulse sentiment, like how are these employees feeling. And I know that sounds soft, but it's actually an indicator of, are these people going to turn over? Are they going to leave the company, right? And then we have the actual team analytics, and we have AI insights, where you don't just have the data. This is why we call it the insights page. You take that data, you analyze it through our AI insights analyzer, and then it pops out like, okay, this is where your people stand. This is the good things that are happening. These are the things to focus on and improve. And then it actually underneath it, it has the actions that you can take from there, like schedule a team to discuss XYZ, or turn this into a note so you can remember it for your next meeting. So that's what I mean by not just tools or features, but behaviors that actually help people lead, manage, either a team, project, or themselves.
Yeah, absolutely, right. Being able to actually make recommendations off real data.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. So does Grapevine actually have a meeting note taker built in as well?
So we don't have a specific meeting note taker, but we do integrate with Fathom. So if people are familiar
Okay.
with Fathom, we have a
I
direct
love some
integration.
Fathom.
I know it's the one that I use, and so selfishly, it's the
Yeah.
one that I integrated with. But this is the beauty of it: is Fathom is free, right? And
Yeah,
so
that's right.
the way that it works is like you can either create a meeting in Grapevine, and we do have our own video conferencing tool, but we also have the ability for you to set up a meeting through Microsoft Teams, Google Meet, or Zoom. And then if you have your Fathom integrated with those, then it will populate in after the meeting is over. Or if you didn't populate it in Grapevine, you can just go to import from Fathom. It literally takes like 5 seconds. So you import that, the transcription is there, and then you can analyze the meeting. Those meetings that are analyzed, it turns into notes and it turns into tasks. Those tasks go on your meeting Kanban board or your project board. And so you're literally taking meetings and turning them into action. And so, yeah, so we don't have a meeting note taker, but we have a workaround, which I would go with Fathom anyway. So I like it.
Nice, man. Awesome, Zach. Well, this has been a tremendous conversation. Super fun. Love talking about anything that can save you time, make you money, help your business go. Appreciate the honesty and clarity you brought today. For those listening, though, where can they connect with you and track Grapevine's journey?
Yeah, so the website is grapevineworkplace.com. So just type that in there. You should be able to find it. I'm on LinkedIn, Zachary Wright, MBA, I think. And then we have a YouTube channel out there too. So if you type in Grapevine, I think it's Grapevine Software. I actually need to update it from the pivot. So if you type in Grapevine Software or Grapevine Workplace, we should pop up. But yeah, grapevineworkplace.com is probably the best place. And then I'm heavily active on LinkedIn.
Awesome. I love it, man. I'll be sure to link those in the notes below. And as always, guys, if you're a builder, an operator, or a leader looking to reduce friction, increase visibility, and scale without chaos, you're in the right place. Until next time, automate the ordinary and scale the extraordinary. Peace.